Greetings, defenders of the Ark. Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to RimWorld Frostwardens, episode 66, Designing Anti-Sapper Defenses. So as you can see above my head, the priority right now is to queue up power surges, which we have to do 3 such power surges before installing the adaptive fuel modulator for the Ark, and they're on a 15-day cooldown. And then additionally, making sure that Axios gets biosculpted and biotuned so that he can start to recover some of his health conditions. I'd also like to queue up some additional goals, because the other goals that we have right now are kind of passive ones and not active ones. So, this is for the next project that our colony... Oh, great. Punching each other again. That our colony undertakes. So here's the poll. We can build a new farm, upgrade the Ark. Well, I mean, we're always upgrading the Ark, so it doesn't really need to be voted on exactly. We can improve the defense entrance. There are some improvements that I think I can make here that I would be happy to oblige. We could scan for new resource veins and construct tunnels to them. We could construct anti-sapper and anti-breacher defenses. We could, if you're a stalwart, vote on constructing sleep accelerators, because that would be something the stalwarts want. Or alternatively, if you're a pilgrim, you can vote on constructing insect traps. As we are reliant upon chem fuel, farming insects might be viable. So it depends on how you guys vote. It's also worth mentioning, I made a few changes on the back end as far as the social impact of doing prosthetic installations go. I hadn't noticed, but YouTube comment did, that there was a huge penalty for everyone's relationship with JD as he did the prosthetic surgeries, which is part of the vanilla expanded memes, precepts. And I modified vanilla expanded memes so that it tones it down. Basically, for every surgery that JD performed, it was like a -80 relationship for 20 days for every one of his ideology, which I thought was kind of absurd. Not even kind of, straight up absurd. So I toned that down tremendously. Because I think it lacked balance in a pretty severe way. So, yeah, feel free to vote to your heart's content, but if you are a pilgrim, don't vote for stalwart, and if you're a stalwart, don't vote for pilgrim. Don't cross the party lines, as that is forbidden. And we will continue working towards improving the Ark and improving our society. And hopefully, our community members will stop punching each other, because there are rivalries forming between the factions. Right? Almost everyone that has a negative relationship with someone else has a negative relationship that crosses the party lines at this point. And some of that reason, if you're wondering, is bigotry is slowly growing between both factions. Meaning they're becoming less tolerant of one another as a result of their diverging ideologies. So I'm curious what I could do while I wait. Well, I guess this poll has concluded. So constructing anti-sapper, anti-breacher defenses has won. So power surges. So updating the priority above my head. Performing power surges and building anti-sapper. Building sap death. I'm just going to have to abbreviate for lack of space. So let's talk about sapper defenses a little bit. Breachers and sappers play by slightly different rules, so I'll explain the game mechanics a little bit. Breachers will spawn somewhere on the map at map's edge. They're never pod dropped, they're never scattered, they're always edge walk-in. And they basically just target more or less the center of your base and destroy every wall in their way. In fact, they would destroy mountains or anything. They don't really care. It's basically a destroy everything between our origin point and the center of the colony. There's not much you can do about breacher defenses other than like building like an onion in layers, or alternatively putting IEDs and turrets in their way. One way to do it, not that I have access to IEDs, is to offer them fake cover. So to put like a wooden wall, because wooden walls are really easy to destroy, and then right behind the wooden wall, you put like an IED, so that in a firefight, they try to seek cover behind the wooden wall, and they step on the IED and blow up, and the IED blows up the wooden wall, removing the cover that they were seeking. So there are some defenses that you can offer up against a breacher, but basically, for the most part, the best defense against a breacher is an overwhelming offense, because they can't be dissuaded. Now, that is fundamentally different from sappers. Sappers target the bedrooms of your colony, as odd as it sounds, or rather specifically a random bed of your colony. And they will actively try to avoid turret cover. So the way they work is the cover spheres, if you will, of the turrets, they will try to avoid. So if we, for instance, wanted to funnel the sappers to attack one specific area of the colony, like right here, where we have defenses and walls set up, like pretend this is proper defenses and walls that are not automated turrets, what you could do is then cover the rest of your colony with automated turrets so that they're far more likely to attack the weak spot that you have prepared ahead of time to actually be a trap. So that is what I plan to do for anti-sapper defenses. Basically, trying to funnel the enemies into a spot where we have proper defensive cover, and they don't. Drawing them into, essentially, a trap. And because the sappers typically will target bedrooms, the trap corridor ought to be somewhere around here. It also means that what we're going to want to do is to build more mini turrets and to surround our perimeter with mini turrets. The other thing that we could do for anti-sappers, sappers don't really walk through deadfall trap tunnels, right? They're sappers, they're going to go through them, or destroy their way through them. They're not going to step on them. But if we do set up these sort of defensive tunnels, we can make accommodations like this to include the deadfall traps or something like that. But that's going to be the plan. So there's going to be a few little things that I want to make changes-wise to the colony here. One is I want to fill in like blind spots, because the way the turret covers work is there's essentially a check to see if the turret can actually fire. So if you see the circle of this turret, it technically covers this area, but it has no line of sight on this area. So like if you put a turret here, it's not covering the south of the wall. It can't shoot through a wall, so that won't dissuade sappers. So what you need to do is like fill in the gaps in the holes so that you have complete turret coverage. So like a plasteel turret here, for instance, can get all of these nooks and crannies, protecting this area from sapper interest. Right? So like putting one exactly there would be pretty ideal, because then it covers this entire wall and section. So that's sort of the idea that I have going. It is going to mean that our colony wealth for buildings is going to go up a lot. And then the other advantage of the sapper defenses is it will make defending against doomsday launchers and triple launchers a little bit easier, because the doomsday launchers and triple launchers can easily be targeted and engaged by the plasteel turrets, which in turn will absorb the gunshots that would have been, or the rockets rather, that would have been fired at our colonists instead. All right, so the Biosculptor Polyfer Axios has been tuned to him. And we are going to wait for our ability to Glitterworld Medicine recover him. But in biotuning, it will he'll go through the bio regen cycle a lot faster than he would have otherwise. I think I am going to start to use the mini turrets that we had built in the turret coverage for Anti-Sappers, so that they're I don't have to build like a new set. So I'm going to start to erect them. Now, one interesting thing is the turrets actually don't functionally need to be able to be turned on in order to offer the protection. But I intend to have them able to be turned on anyway, because otherwise they're like a scarecrow, and that's not proper defenses. You know, I don't want scarecrow turrets out there. I might actually cancel the deadfall traps that I had going on now. It's going to be harder to use deadfall trap tunnels with the changes that are incoming. And then, of course, this whole project is going to use a remarkable amount of stone and steel as well. So I'm going to have to be farming that in somewhat high quantities. So the idea is to turn this section here into the defenses, where we would have something like the barricades and walls here to shoot at the sappers coming in. But probably shooting... We want them to have the longest approach possible. Additionally, and it might seem silly, but the other plan is to put our turrets behind walls. Like this. Where we, so they're not targeted by the raiders unless the raiders are sappers and breachers. Right? I don't actually want the turrets to be destroyed for any reason unless they're serving their express purpose. So we're going to have like a multi-layered colony wall, leaving a lot of room for expansion, you know, when we expand out. All right, so let's start marking this out. This turret's radius goes to about there and covers everything within this wall. And I want to use as few turrets as possible. But we're going to have cover like this so that there's not holes in the coverage. It's like putting a turret here, for instance. So it can cover... or actually even... here. So there's no gaps. Now, it could be possible to put individual walls between the turret coverage. But I'll probably end up leaving it open, at least for the first iteration. Rather than having it be segmented like like a boat or something like that. Wouldn't outer defense deter sappers? No, it would not. So sappers are looking for a way to get to your beds without having to go through turrets. So putting a wall around the turrets means that these areas, you can think of this whole area is like sappers want to avoid. You know, everything inside this wall covered by the turret. So what I'm trying to do is erect an area around the base that is just unattractive to sappers. Which means everything shaded right now is essentially unattractive to sappers because it is covered by a turret, and therefore it's harder to get through than somewhere not covered by a turret. Does that make sense? So I'm constructing mini turrets around to try to drive them to specific areas that we designate to kill them. So then the last turret will be, like, here. It's a nice amount of territory that I'm annexing, yes. And it is a lot of limestone that's going to have to go into this wall. Without a doubt. This whole area can be... So, for to deter sappers to come into this area, which is actually not covered by a turret, is relatively simple. We just take one of these turrets and plop it back here. And now, like, this whole swath is now turret covered. And plus, this turret can be useful when defending against actual waves. In fact, given that, I'm going to deconstruct this wall. No, maybe I won't. Just leave it as is. It also means that we're going to need some additional doors. Because I have a door here, but not like a way to get out. So before I start actually building the walls, let's plan for some doors in this area. And then on top of that, I can have defender advantages built into the doors. So that they have to come in one by one, and we can defend 3 by 3. Something like that. And this is going to be a gradual project. It's not necessarily a rush, but it should help to thwart some of the Sapper attacks that we've been getting. Because I would say a really high percentage of the attacks lately have been Sapper and Breacher. So I'm trying to plan for that. Yes, there is indeed a good amount of space for a second farm. You know, if we wanted to put one in there, we could, and it wouldn't really disrupt the defenses as they are. Oh, interesting. Zeusin is researching literal medicine from here. I don't want that. Research... Oh, you are on the wrong... Oh, I see. She was on the wrong research bench. Is she... So Zeusin and Bryzit should have access to it, and I think I accidentally give it to Rogi. Must have been a misclick. There we go. Research rate should pick up a bit now. Now, the other worry is we are heading into winter, and as we're heading into winter, it's going to be harder to do outside of the base construction projects without, you know, freezing to death. So this might be a bit of a seasonal project, because there's definitely going to be a time where going out here is too life risky. But for now, I say it's fine. Oh, they are hauling steel piecemeal. That's not good. So far, no one's gotten hypothermic, but I suspect that will change pretty soon. Also, Axios. I'm going to have you hit Fish Pick with a work drive. So now that you can understand the mechanics behind the the anti-sapper defenses, I can remove the turrets. Now, ideally, in a perfect scenario, you would have these mini turrets overlap one another for range. Meaning that, like, this turret could shoot at the other turret for coverage, but I can always add more turrets into the into our area defenses, you know, later on as we build more of them. But the reason for that is, you know, plasteel mini turrets get destroyed pretty quickly by brawlers, but if you can have them overlap, then one turret can cover the other turret, so that there isn't that brawlers are more easily engaged and stop destroying turrets, you know, without having to fight more. Keeping a close eye on our power consumption. Batteries are low, but they're not worrisome yet. The other thing I'm going to want to do is to do a remove roof area for this area. I don't want like a giant roofed up zone or outside of the base. So I'm going to start painting that that zone now. And if you have any questions about the mechanics behind this, feel free to ask. There we go. So most of our hauled stone at this point is slate and not limestone. So I'm going to cancel all designations for hauling and only give designations for limestone, so that our stone stockpile can start filling up of limestone exclusively to replenish the limestone that we're using for this wall. I think at some point it's going to be too cold to really go out and get limestone from the snowfields, but for now at least we can issue that order. Will they attack hallway doors as they're not covered? Yes, possibly, but hallway doors are also weak points for the attackers, and I can improve them so that they're better choke points for sappers as well. Additionally, it's pretty easy to change that, because all you really need to do is to drop a turret inside of the hallway, and it becomes, you know, so if I put a turret here, for instance, it covers this whole area, and then this whole area becomes less attractive to them. There might be some trial and error to be done in here, but regardless, it's easy to imagine that having multiple turrets covering around our colony makes our colony safer, even if they don't work perfectly as intended. So we'll have a power... Ooh, Glitter World Meds is done. Fire regeneration is going. And now that Glitter World Meds is done, the 2 hopper... Those for the hops will go to Glitter World Meds. And then these will go to hops. And these will go to Glitter World Meds as well. Because it looks like our cotton shortage has been remedied a little bit. Maybe not perfectly, but a little bit. Is there a roof here? Oh, yeah. Right, because of the toxic fallout. That's right, that's right. Alright, taking a look at our steel. Steel's looking pretty good. Iron's looking okay. We're keeping up with demands. And then we are slowly adding to our plasteel stocks. So we have enough plasteel for like 5 more turrets or so. Which is pretty good. We'll just keep doing that. Cheers. Okay, power looks quite low. I'm going to change production rate to 120%. Trying to balance it out as much as I can. That's a little sacrilege, Bryzit. Don't think I didn't catch that. Praying in the wrong room. Alright, I'm going to turn off the plasteel drill. I think we have enough plasteel now. Or at least a bunch of turrets, so I don't need to amass more of it. So we've got these Glitterworld alyssums that produce what we need to be able to make Glitterworld medicine from scratch. So the trimmings produce Glitterworld Nutriamine, which then can be made into Glitterworld. Because there's really no opportunities to trade, or do quests, or go to Ancient Dangers, or anything like that in this series, I needed some alternative method to get Glitterworld for the bioregeneration cycles, so I'm using VPG medicine for that. Things look pretty good. Things going smooth. Batteries are looking a bit better. We'll have our next power surge opportunity in 5.5 days. And we are on our way to growing some Glitterworld meds. So the fertility sensitivity is quite high. So these plants really benefit from hydroponics. Much the way that rice does. Actually, cotton too, and tinctoria, but not so much psychoid or hops. They benefit, but not to the same degree. So the northern sapper wall is almost done. That was pretty quick. Then I think what I want to do is design the southern sapper wall. I'm going to shrink the zone a little bit here. And run a tunnel down like this. And then this whole area will be cordoned off for Anti-Sapper. Trying to drive the sappers into this spot here. So what this will actually look like... I'm trying to envision for myself. I think... Let's shrink the zone a little bit. So I think it will be something like this, where I'll have a wall that comes out, and we cover this area with it, with our anti-sappers, and then this whole area will be the incursion point. Basically, doors along here that give us access to defenses, where the enemies funneled, sapper-specific enemies are funneled in here. Meaning that this wall would come out like that. I'm going to mull that over, so I'm going to keep it forbidden for now, because I don't actually actively want to be working on it. But something like that. And then the only worry that I have is the willingness of sappers to march all the way around. And then there's also the concern of, I have been using... some of the other doors, like this one, for instance, to lure attackers. But if we have an external wall like this, it's going to be harder to lure our attackers to alternative doors other than our kill box doors. So that I have to consider that as well. I could, if I'm putting doors in here, these will be viable doors to lure them, I guess. Uh-oh, broken battery. I don't like to see that. Surge it. Surge is on a 5-day cooldown. So let's see. If I do end up with defenses here, let's contemplate. I'm going to want... Trying to think of exactly how I want to lay this out. I probably want more space so that I can have more shooters. Something like this. And that gives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 potential spots to shoot from. Yeah. And then I'm going to want doors behind them that can quickly open and close. So I'll be using wood again, which means I'll probably need to drill some wood. So in this case, I'd want a whole lot of doors so that we can... And to replace the wall here so that we can gain access to this defensive area rapidly. So maybe something like this, ignoring the fact that this exists, because this will be knocked out. And then everything back here will be a separate set of doors, meaning that the way this looks will change. This whole thing is going to go more flush than it currently is. So these are the quick access wooden doors, and then we're going to have forced open stone doors. No, maybe not even. I might just fill in this void. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. It's going to add more volume, but I can suspect I'll probably end up using this space anyway at some point. Okay. We'll get that going now. Which also means needing wood for the extra doors. We'll leave them to it for a bit. And we can also maybe incorporate like a prison here. Although, because this is only for sappers, I don't want to build it up so much that it becomes a really expensive project. Because that kind of, you know, will make it harder to defend our colony if we add so many defenses that it becomes expensive. But the northern section is done, which is great. The other thing is we're going to want to be able, from these, to shoot 40, which, oddly enough, is almost exactly the distance that it's at right now. So I'll probably want it to be a little bit longer, and the reason is for a sniper rifle to have access to its full range as they approach. But also to keep in mind that this cannot accommodate a turrets, because if it has turrets in it, it defeats the purpose of luring in sappers, because these sappers will actively avoid the turrets. So it has to be manpower defenses only. Well, not entirely true. It could also be IEDs and deadfall traps, but they're harder to incorporate. Minus the method that I mentioned, which was the wooden fake cover with IEDs lying in wait. But we don't have mortar and IED research done yet, so I wouldn't be able to employ that method anyway. So this whole area is going to be roofed off. I'm not going to want to trudge through snow. It's going to be illuminated, and that will be our sapper box. And then these walls will probably come down a little bit further. But I'm going to keep them forbidden for now. Where they'll meet up like this or something. Where we then hook turrets up here to cover this area. And this area might be covered by like only 2 turrets. Probably. Yeah, 2 turrets will probably do in this spot. So it's not too expensive. So let's go ahead and make 2 more plasteel mini turrets within our base so we don't get hypothermic. And get that going. Now, one of the other reasons to continue the deep drills is we are relatively low on chem fuel. Not out, but low. We have almost a week's worth of chem fuel loaded up in the Ark. But the wood can go towards doors and also towards chem fuel. Trying to get our chem fuel count back. The Witchbringer just made 30. I'm going to try to keep our chem fuel up in the like 250 range at least. And right now we burn... How much do we burn a day? 20 a day? So that would be like 10 days of chem fuel supply, provided it isn't like nuked by explosives or something like that. Should the east wall have interior area with turrets to keep them from going through the wall? Yeah. So probably putting a plasteel turret in here eventually and closing it like this to stop them from plowing through would be a good idea. Yeah. Absolutely. Research into bioregeneration is pushing its halfway mark. And then once we get some Glitterworld Naturamine turned into Glitterworld, Axios can start his regen cycles. The plant still grows slow at 0. I think you're looking at the wrong thing. These are 24% grown. Their growth rate is 0 just because it's nighttime. Nice! We have another section of the wall that can be replaced into limestone. Would I ever make a heated insect bait cave for fuel purposes? That was literally on the poll that you just voted on 20 minutes ago. Well, chalk it up to great minds think alike. Unfortunately, as does stupid ones, so I don't know where that puts both of us. We're either geniuses or morons, but hey, we're in it together at least. Rise it. I am rather surprised. Oh, yeah. Alright, I'm changing Bryzit's work priorities to prioritize research over mining. I mean, every good stalwart would agree with that. I think. Looking good. Now, there are some sections, like this section here, which is problematic for our turret defenses, as is like this entire hallway. I'll consider the odd gaps to be fixed later on. I don't need to worry about that right now. I don't need to make it perfect on the first pass. As long as we get like 99% of the way there, that's fine by me. Thank you for tuning in to RimWorld Frostwardens, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patron, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you in next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow stalwarts and pilgrims.